what are the kind of fundamental tactics, recipes for somebody who is looking to accumulate power? What's the core of your advice to them?
Well, the core of my advice would be, I think, several things. Number one, you've got to understand the personal qualities that produce power, and you need to get, I think, a very objective self-assessment, which is hard to do because we all like to believe that we're above average on everything that's positive. So I often tell people they ought to get themselves a personal board of directors of 2 or 3 people who are not competitive with them and are not in the same organization that they're working in, but who will give them honest and objective advice. Not only give them honest and objective advice and ratings on the various qualities that produce power, but also hold them accountable. So we often have, as you know, personal development plans. We're going to become better at X or Y or Z, and then we slide off the wagon, if you will. And it's nice to have a personal board of directors that would hold you accountable. So my first thing is, figure out what are your strengths and weaknesses, and get some people to help you build your strengths and overcome your weaknesses and hold you accountable for that personal development plan. I think a second thing is, the networks are important, and everybody understands the importance of building efficient and effective social networks. They need to understand how to do that and go about doing that. People need to learn how to act and speak with power. I will show in a few weeks in my class a video which I've carefully edited from the hours of testimony that I've watched of Tony Hayward of BP and Lloyd Blankfein of Goldman Sachs, and I show it with and without sound and listen to the language. And and these are 2 guys, each whose companies have caused a lot of economic damage. The Lloyd, of course, never admits it, which is one of his advantages. And Lloyd comes in and he's forceful, and Tony Hayward comes in and he's remorseful. And the research literature, and certainly that little experience, shows that you're better off being forceful than remorseful. And you can learn. These are all skills that people can learn. People can learn to speak more effectively. People can learn to show up more effectively. People can learn to adopt more powerful postures. People can learn how to become more efficient social networkers. And with respect to this networking issue, it's really interesting. I recently talked to Chip Conley of Joie de Vie Hotels on a case I'm writing, not on Chip, but on somebody else. And I said, Chip, why is it that so few people become effective in building these efficient and effective social networks? And he said, I think something was extremely insightful. He said, look, to most people, networking is a task. And to the person on whom I'm writing the case, networking is a skill. A task is something like taking out the garbage. Nobody works on getting better at taking out the garbage. Nobody thinks about that this is a skill that they want to develop or that they're proud of. He said most people think about networking as a task. It's something you got to do. You go into a meeting, you got to meet a bunch of people, exchange a bunch of business cards, whatever. They don't think about it as a skill that you can get better at, that you can develop some craft in and some artistic, competence in. And he said this guy that we were talking about, this guy understands that networking is a skill. So it's the difference between task and skill. These are things that people can get better at as long as they recognize that, just like we've used the word earlier, political skills, that this is a skill. This is something you could develop, like your skill in riding a bike or speaking French, or your particular interest in and passion is. You can get better at these things, and you can get better at playing organizational politics as well. Probably the single most important quality that I would allude to and tell people that they need to develop is the ability to respond and overcome setbacks and failures, because everybody is going to have them. You know this as an academic. Journal articles get rejected. Editors are not happy with your first draft of the manuscript, which doesn't mean that you don't pay attention to or listen to what the people are telling you, but it says, okay, I've heard this. I'm not going to take this too personally. I'm not going to, get depressed. I'm going to figure out how I can take this advice and get back on the horse, if you will, and continue riding and continue doing what I need to do in order to be effective and successful. And this ability to overcome setbacks and to just be persistent. One of the people I talk about in the book is my friend Laura Esserman, who's changing the world of medicine and is just an incredible physician as well as an MBA at the University of California, San Francisco. And, when I met Richard Blum, the chairman of the Board of Regents, a very successful money manager and Dianne Feinstein's husband, at a conference, I said, how did Laura get you to this conference? His answer was pretty much the same way she got you here. I've learned over the years that if you say no, it doesn't do you any good because she's going to basically pound on you until you say yes. So you might as well just say yes at the beginning. And this whole issue of persistence and resilience, I think, are really, really critical.
I came away thinking a little bit, Jeff, as I read the latter parts of the book, that in a way, you're kind of suggesting that the pursuit of power is theater. That, it's the process of constructing this set of images and perceptions around yourself that convince the rest of the world you are as powerful as you say you are. I mean, it's, the wizard was completely powerful till Dorothy pulls back the curtain. So, is that kind of a correct characterization? Or let me put it a different way. How far can you go in constructing a reality that doesn't meet the reality? I mean, the real sense of who you are and what you're capable to do. I mean, do people ultimately catch up with this? And you're saying often not, maybe because the powerful protect the powerful, I don't know. But you find people who've lost billions of dollars, who've blown up half of the global economy and still seem to be suffering no consequences. So, should we be celebrating how capable these people are at getting power? Should we be bemoaning the fact that we don't have people who are powerful enough to unseat them?
I think the short answer is we should be doing both. We should not only be celebrating their ability to keep power, but we should, I think, more importantly or practically, we should be understanding the forces and the theories and the behaviors and why they have been able to keep power in spite of the fact that they've blown up half of the world economy. And I know you go to Davos occasionally, and when you go to Davos and the World Economic Forum, I'm sure you will see many of these people still being wined and dined and feted and everything else. And we ought to understand why that is. And we ought to, because if we're going to change it, I think we need to understand what keeps the system working as it is in the first place. But, there is this interesting thing that you allude to, which is the perception becomes reality, because over time, I'm a huge believer at both the individual level and at the organizational level and at the societal level in the power of the self-fulfilling prophecy. If everybody believes a stock is going to go up in price, it will go up in price because everybody will want to rush out to buy it. If everybody believes that, to take an example which I use in the book, that Tina Brown is a great editor, and her taking over Newsweek and combining it with the Daily Beast is going to make Newsweek more successful. This will increase her ability to get talented people to write for the magazine. And if you increase your probability of getting talented people to write for the magazine, the odds of the magazine's success go up. So, if everybody, when Heidi Roizen, as a graduate of Stanford, was, and now is a venture capitalist, but prior to that, was the head of software developer relations at Apple Computer, her job was to convince people, and these are years ago, Apple, in the 90s wasn't like so hot as it is today. Her job was to convince software developers that they ought to write software for a company that had about 3% market share. Now, by the way, if no software developer will write software for Apple, their market share is going to zero. If everybody will write cool apps for Apple, their market share actually goes up. So it's not just that perception creates its own reality, it creates its own reality in a very physical way, in a very material way. That if people believe a product is going to be successful, they will support it, and that will increase the product's capacities and its quality, and it will make it more successful. If people believe you are going to be successful, if everybody believes that Gary Hamel is the world's greatest management theorist, more talented people will want to work with you. And if more talented people want to work with you, your odds of doing better work will, of course, go up. So there's a real, as well as a perceptual way in which a way in which the world does create its own self-fulfilling prophecies.